Jeannie with Nonna Scraps, and I'm so glad that Josie finally invited me to come play with you. Today in the playground of MBX, we are going to look at the same design you worked on last time. Looks kind of like an ice cream cone, maybe a fan blade. You can name it whatever you want to. But we're going to learn how to manipulate this and actually create a quilting motif that stitches from the center of your quilt block and fills it in pretty well. But first, you know, when you got to play, you got to make sure everything's correct. We have to add some new toolbars, or if they aren't there, make sure they're there. Let's go to View. Down to the bottom, you have the toolbar palette. We would like to add the alignment toolbar. If you look, you can see down at the bottom it's grayed out because nothing is selected, and it'll only become active when something is. Again, we're going back to the toolbars and we're going to add our Docker toolbar. It's right up here. You need to know what's on these because they kind of bounce around depending on where you position them the last time. We also want to add the Easy Layout toolbar, and here's that one. Looks like almost geometric, almost like you do have a quilt that's laid out. We're going to also add the Edit toolbar, which my guess is that you most likely will have this toolbar already opened up and functioning, but if not, just make sure it's the one where you have the object details, a polygon, select the hand. It's the helper toolbar that you're going to need in order to create this design the way it needs to be created. So let's play. I am so ready. Let's go down and we're going to select our hand. Not your hand, the hand that's on the bottom toolbar. With it selected, since there's only one object on the screen, we're going to actually play with this just a little bit. We're going to change its size, change its shape, but we're going to leave the original object on your screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste. We're going to come up here to copy or control insert, depending on where you are in computer history. For me, I love control insert, but then I'm an old DOS girl. And then we're going to paste a second design. Now I can't see it on mine, and you can't see it on yours because I didn't have it nudge it. But if I pick up the highlighted image, you can see that there's two designs. Let's hit the back arrow, put it back in place. I don't want to leave it out. Mama told me always to pick up after myself. What we're going to do, we're going to take one of these little black handles from this bounding box that appeared with this item selected, and we're going to maneuver it so that we have slight change in size of our object. If I were to pull one of the upper or lower handles directly perpendicular to each other, my design would grow straight up. If I were going to do the horizontal ones, it'd grow out. If I wanted to grow proportionately, I would grab one of the corners and height and width grow at the same amount. It's pretty good to me. So I'm going to move it right back to the center for just a second. It's kind of plain though. Let's get a little more movement. I think I like this the best. And sometimes when I'm creating my quilting motifs, this is exactly what I do. Okay, there's two. Now we have one superimposed upon the other because we have our click to grid selected from last week. It will click to the closest grid point, which is the center of these crosshairs. And that's our beginning and ending with this design, if you remember where we started placing the points. So everything will stitch out from the center. Let's try something. I'm going to move that up there, which doesn't look bad. It's a little ways up, but you can see there's a gap. If I scroll in, that's quite a big gap down at the bottom. Not a problem if that's what I want, but maybe I don't. So I am going to take and I'm going to select both of these objects. Okay, Control-8 it, and I'm now my alignment tools are illuminated. I can see them, they have some color. And I'm going to select the one with the longer oval and the blue square and a line at the bottom. And if I hover long enough, it will tell me exactly what the tool is. It says align to the bottom. Use bottom align selected objects. And worked great, except guess where they are? They both jumped up. So again, I'm going to just move it down to the center. Both jumped up. I'm going to make sure I have them both selected and move the whole unit to the center. All right, we're going to scroll out so you can see. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to again select it, but this time I am going to turn on my resequence block. Let's look at that for a moment. The uppermost line is always going to be the first digitized. This is the second digitized. That is, I'm attempting to create stitches. You see the object that was created and the stitch type. This is the single line or running stitch for both of them. I am going to select both my objects. There's a couple ways I can do this. I can click here, and I can hold my shift key down and click here, and it'll select both objects. I can control A it, and it will select both, or I can go to edit, select all. While I'm in edit, I'm going to control G or go to group. Now I've got another item that you need to notice over here under object type. Upper left hand corner. There's a little X. I'm not sure if you can see it on the video or not. That X means that that is no longer a single element, but it is grouped with another element. If I wanted to see which ones, I'd come up here. Let me see if, oh, maybe that's grouped with something else. It automatically, by clicking on that one element, will show me what it's grouped with. And that's a pretty neat trick. Or if I come over here, I can click on it and it will do the same thing. What we're going to do now is we are going to use a little bit, or I'm sorry, another tool. It's been a while since I've done a video. And it's the layout tool. If I wanted to create a large quilt layout in this software, I can do it. I don't have to go to Horizon Link. I can do it exactly in here. I can tell it how large my layout is, where I want to divide it, and it will give me a graphic representation of how I need to hoop out my quilt. And that's for another day. What we're going to look at are these two. This is the copy and mirror to corners. Yeah, we want this starting from the middle. We're going to look at the copy to circle. It comes on, and I was playing with it. I can have 2 repeats of my elements. Now remember, it's grouped, so it's going to do the whole group. I can go up to 3. I can go up to 4. Ooh, I like that. That's kind of cool. Go up to 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can see that we have a beautiful design beginning in the center here. I'm going up to 12. I like the movement in that design. What you see is not the stitch design. It is simply an indicator of what your design is going to look like. The black lines, if I were to hit escape or if I were to not save and just leave the program, they'd all go away. I'd be starting over. But instead, I want to keep this because I kind of like it. I'm going to my green apply check mark. It generates the stitches for the objects, and it will create the object that can be turned into the file to be sent to my machine. I can also, if I'm in a hurry, hit enter. Enter does the same thing. Now, how do I know it's done the same thing? I look over here, and I have all of those elements in my box. Now, if you look, I wished I could zoom in on this and I can't, I'm sorry. If you look closely at these little X's, they're all different colors. That means that we have everything, grouped just like we did in the beginning, which is that set. I can click on this one, it's that set. I'm going to Control A it and group it. That has changed each one of those little X's to one color. And in that one color, I know that now if I come over here, select any of them, it selects my entire design. So, what are we going to do with it? We're going to eventually stitch it, but it isn't going to be able to be stitched in this form yet. So we're going to go to File, Save As, and it's going to bring me up to where I store my files. This is totally dependent on you. And I'm going to write Digiblog Design, Digiblog1 _ design. And I'm going to select, actually I did it before, but I'm just going to put save. Yes, I want it to rewrite over because I like this one better. That was saved as a JAN file. If you look at the Save As, if you have done a little research into the files, a lot of times the big question is, I know I digitized it, I have no idea where it went, it didn't go to my machine. Well, if you saved it as a JAN and nothing else, you cannot send it to your machine. The JAN, if you think of it in terms of it's the editable, not eatable, but editable file. You can change it. It will not make a difference. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. It will not affect the distance from needle penetration point to needle penetration point or the length of your stitches. Think about the mistakes you made with other embroidery. You buy this beautiful single stitch running stitch design. It looks gorgeous and you make it bigger. Let's say you double the size of the design and you get these honking big long stitches that are just ugly and you know are not going to last. That's because it is not an editable file. The JAN is. So once you've got this, you can now go in and do whatever you want to, whenever you want to do it, except sew it. To sew it, we are going to click on the down menu and pick the file extension or the dot 3 letters that will actually talk to your sewing machine. For this design, we want to go with the Janome JPX, and you can see it comes up here, Digiblog1 Design JPX. We're going to save it. Yes, I want to replace it. There's graphics involved so that you can see it on the screen, and it's there to go. Now, I didn't say when this was the JAN file, you can send it to your USB device directly as a JAN file. You don't have to save it as your JPX. So if I want to send it to my machine to do a stitch out, I'm going to write to my external media. Right there it wrote my JPX file. I'm going to select the USB. Now I'm writing to a 15,000. I know that for 2 ways. Number one, I know my machine. Love her dearly. She's my buddy. But I've also told the software that I'm writing to a 15,000. If I were to write to a 12,000, I would have to go into this embroidery folder in order to write my design. It's easy to go to. You just click it and it opens up. I don't have to go there with my 15,000. Any design that is in this part of the folder can be read. So I'm simply going to click on the blue arrow and it's going to send it to my USB. And now it's time for me to go have a play date with Josie and stitch out my design. Why don't we meet up again maybe Sunday next week or the week after, and we'll do a little bit more with creating this design as well as stitching it out. Thanks for joining me. This has been great. I can't wait to see you again. Bye.